Good afternoon. My name is Caitlin Mum. I'm a Public Information Officer with the Lee County Sheriff's Office. We call this press conference today to give you an update on a recent joint investigation between the Lee County Sheriff's Office and the Cape Coral Police Department. Behind me, we have Sheriff Marceno and Cape Coral Police Chief Anthony Sizemore and both of their teams. To give you some details, we have Sheriff Marceno. Sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon, Sheriff Marceno, and thank you for being here today. On Tuesday, October 5th, deputies responded to a vacant wooded lot off Pine Island Road regarding skeletal remains being located. The skeletal remains were confirmed to be human remains. Detectives with our Major Crimes Unit and Missing Persons Unit have assumed the investigation. As normal with any investigation involving the discovery of human skeletal remains, detectives began reviewing recent missing person cases. Additionally, detectives had communicated with our law enforcement partners from surrounding agencies to share information. Based on limited information at this time, it is believed the skeletal remains belong to a white female aged 30 to 50 with small stature. It is believed the person has been deceased less than 5 years but longer than 6 months. One of the missing person cases reviewed is that of Lauren DeMalo, who's being investigated by the Cape Coral Police Department. At this time, we cannot confirm the skeletal remains belong to Lauren DeMalo. However, it cannot be excluded. Additional evidence and examination will be required to make determination, which includes dental records and a DNA profile. We called this press conference in hopes of identifying any dental professionals who might have performed work on Lauren DeMalo. We are interested in getting this request out to dental professionals here locally, but also Staten Island, New York, and the state of Maryland, both of which Lauren has ties to. Detectives would like to obtain dental records for examination and comparison to assist in confirming or excluding the identity of the skeletal remains. I want to be clear. Although there is still uncertainty surrounding the missing person case of Lauren DeMalo and our investigation of skeletal remains, I can assure you both agencies are working together as a team. My detectives are speaking regularly with detectives from the Cape Coral Police Department, and we will provide any and all necessary resources to assist. I'll now turn it over to Chief Anthony Sizemore. Chief.
Thanks, Sheriff. Just a little bit of background on our missing person case with Lauren DeMalo. On June 21st, 2020, she was reported missing to our agency. And from that moment, the case was a priority, or it remains a priority. Thousands of personnel hours have been dedicated to the case, led by Detective Nick Jones, and 9 other detectives have worked on this investigation. Detectives from our agency have executed 12 search warrants in relation to this case, one as recently as a few weeks ago. 225 pieces of evidence have been collected in conjunction with Lauren's case. Approximately 100 interviews have been conducted, and over 110 individual tips have been run down. I have personally spoken with Paul DeMolo as recently as yesterday, that's Lauren's father, to let him know about today's press conference and about the discovery that the Lee County Sheriff's Office made recently with the skeletal remains. Not every lead is shared because it's exhausting and emotionally draining. Even for our investigators, every solid lead looks like it could be the one, and to be let down is punishing. And to do that to the family, he is part of our family now, we protect him. But this lead is the biggest lead that we've had in the life of this case. So it was very important that I reach out to Paul yesterday and tell him about the lead, our plea, our joint plea for dental records, and also for this press conference that we are going to go from law enforcement channels to more open source to get as much information as we can. We believe that there's a good possibility that these skeletal remains are that of Lauren's. As the sheriff stated, we cannot say this 100%. The dental records are pivotal in this case. She had a tooth extraction 10 years ago in Staten Island. We have been poring over dental offices and making contact with them in the Staten Island and Maryland area, and also locally. But we're pleading with anybody who worked in those offices or currently does, We're not asking for any HIPAA information. We're asking for confirmation of her patient status, and let us do the requisite work of securing subpoenas to be able to legally get that information to help make that match. The importance of an ID for us is pivotal. It's the open and shut of our case. But having worked major crimes myself, I understand the position that the Lee County Sheriff's Office is also in. You cannot find what happened without knowing who it happened to. So being able, if our cases converge, it will clearly go in that direction, and we need that information. We mentioned the assistance with dental records. If the dental records are not successfully obtained, other scientific means will be utilized, such as DNA, but we must be cautious about that. And I explained that to Mr. DeMolo, that skeletal DNA is a very painstaking process, and the time waiting can be very, very long, a lot longer than normal circumstances. So we would like to be able to utilize that dental examination and match. If it is indeed Lauren, our investigation has come to a tragic end. And all of the work that we've done that I mentioned earlier will be handed over to our partners at the Lee County Sheriff's Office to be able to use in their investigation. If it is not, our missing persons case goes on, just as it did from day one, continuing to work on it behind the scenes without the fanfare, but nonetheless being worked, and the hard work will remain for the Lee County Sheriff's Office to find out who indeed these remains belong to. We would like to thank many agencies that have helped us along the way. Almost a year and a half now we've been working on this. First and foremost, the Lee County Sheriff's Office. Sheriff Marceno and his team have been instrumental in our case. The Fort Myers Police Department has helped. The FBI, the New York City Police Department, Sarasota Canine Search and Rescue, Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office, and the Florida Department of Law Enforcement have assisted us in this investigation, and we are hopeful that it will come to a conclusion. Sheriff?
I want to thank Chief Sizemore and our family members at the Cape Coral Police Department. You guys do a great job, and we appreciate that cohesive team and partnership. I want to also reiterate that between the two teams we have standing here today, we will leave no stone unturned, and we will work to find the answers. We urge anyone with information on the skeletal remains or Lauren DeMolo's disappearance to please come forward and contact our detectives. I'll now take a few questions.
Other than, gender and possible age, are there any other similarities between the remains and Lauren DeMolo? If so, maybe specific.
So obviously everybody wants to know that exact question. We're pretty confident in what we feel, but we will not 100% confirm, like Chief Sizemore said, until we have either DNA or that dental records.
And this is a question for, I think, Chief Sizemore and
Yes.
Dr. Jones. Does that location off of Pine Island, I'm guessing in the Bayshore 41 area, does that location stick out to you at all in any other part of your investigation? Did it overlap with any suspects or persons of interest?
Really, with that question, I would have to withhold the information to be able to keep the integrity of the investigation, not only for us, but also if there's going to be a handoff on what would be a death investigation to the Sheriff's Office, it wouldn't be prudent for me to give that information out.
Do you guys have any suspects or persons of interest in the case right now?
Like I said, we've interviewed over 100 individuals about this case, her network of associates. We have people that we believe have information. As far as terms such as person of interest or suspect, I'm not confident using those type of terms, but I am very confident in associates and witnesses.
And my other question is, I guess it could be either of you, but this is skeletal remains we're talking about. How do you even begin, or the medical examiner begin to figure out what happened to her?
Well, the ME's office knows, I mean, they deal with things like this all the time, and they have their techniques. Again, DNA testing is different with skeletal remains than our normal route of DNA testing. Cause of death, looking at dental records. I mean, there's so many different things they look at. But once we can confirm, once through the ME's office, and we are able, we will.
Anybody else have questions? Just one for clarification purposes. So Pine Island Road, do we have, and you said an empty lot, is there any like crossroad or something that we could?
It's in our northern district, but I want to make something real clear. I mean, we work as one team here. It doesn't matter what patch or uniform. We're very blessed to have Tony Sizemore, Chief Sizemore, and his team working with us. So we are working the death investigation portion. This might overlap and be one investigation, and that's why we're very, very cautious on what information is released and how we work together to not compromise that investigation.
I know it's still so early, but is it too early to also tell whether or not this death investigation could be whether somebody did this to this person or this person died of natural causes, or is it too early to tell?
So once again, the ME's office has to look at all the evidence that's proposed. For instance, are there skull fractures? Is there forced trauma? And again, we don't have those answers now, and it's an open, active investigation, but we will have answers, and when we do, we will absolutely share them.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.